Hey there YouTube, Travis here. So this is the Polini ZA50 Maxi, and in this video we're going to go through the process of getting this bike running correctly by doing three things. We're going to check for air leaks, we're going to look at ignition timing, and then finally we're going to look at the carb. And be it that this is a fresh rebuild, by the time we're done with all of those three things, this should be a pretty nice, well-running bike. So from the prior video, again, the bike would only run at about a quarter to half throttle, and anything above that, it would bog, die out, four-stroke, seemingly all at the same time. So let's go ahead and get to the bottom of this. We're going to tackle the low-hanging fruit first. Before we look at timing or jetting, we got to make sure that this thing is actually sealed up correctly. Now, a few videos back, we went ahead and made a DIY leak down tester. This is probably the best way to ensure that you have a properly sealed up engine. But for now, we're just going to stick with the carb cleaner test. Quite surprisingly, even though I used all new gaskets and torqued everything to spec, I actually had a leak at the head gasket, as well as a pretty gnarly one at the clamping surface for the Bing. Also surprising because I had an O-ring in there. Okay, so here's how we're going to fix those air leaks, starting with the head gasket. All right, so here's the plan. We've got a nice new replacement head gasket for this head leak. It's entirely possible that the head itself, which again, we're reusing some parts here. This is a Puch high torque head that this has gotten warped. It's a used head. I have no idea the history of it. When I put a straight edge along it, it seems flat. I could go sanding it with different grits of sandpaper on a piece of glass, but what I'm going to do instead is we're just going to coat each side of it with some copper spray gasket and see how we do. It really doesn't seem warped. It's possible that the cylinder, even though it's brand spanking new, is warped, but that seems pretty flat as well. The threads on the studs are all good, so I feel like we've got even torque. All the nuts threaded on really nicely. The nuts and the studs were new. And now for the Bing. Okay, so obviously I did have an O-ring. You always run an O-ring inside any Bing because otherwise it's a metal-on-metal connection. I was using an O-ring out of just a box of random O-rings. I know is probably pretty old. I went out and bought a fresh box of these types of O-rings, which say that they're resistant to gas. The size that ended up being right for me is this one, the 5/8 by 13/16 by 3/32. So after that, we had no more problems with the air leak right there. All right, I'll call that a pass. So now that we've got our air leaks sorted out, we can take a much closer look at the point gap and the timing. Okay, so we've sorted out our air leaks. Now we can move on to timing. When I initially got this bike running, I eyeballed the point gap. It looked fine. I put the stator somewhat close to advanced just to get to a place where I knew it would run. But now let's do a quick little deep dive and we'll get this timing set totally properly. So here's a really quick recap at what I'm aiming for here. I've got both E50 and ZA50 information here. We'll be spending most of our time looking at the ZA. So for the point gap, the Puch service manual has you between 0.4 and 0.5 millimeters. You measure that out with a set of feeler gauges. The engine on the ZA is currently sitting at 0.5 millimeters of point gap when I actually measured it. When it comes to point gap, come down here, when you have a larger point gap, so if you're on the bigger end of that range, you're going to have the ability to set the stator at full advance and have much higher timing. When you have a lower point gap, so if you're here or even smaller, you're going to have less timing available to you at full advance. Kind of a funny way to think about it, but that's just kind of how my brain works. It basically talks about the range of timing you get by actually rotating the stator. The stator, by the way, On a ZA50, it rotates counterclockwise, so that's the arrow on the flywheel. When you want to advance your timing, you turn it in the opposite direction of the flywheel's direction. So because the ZA50 rotates counterclockwise, you actually turn the stator clockwise to advance. Forgot to write those words in there. There you go. So you rotate the stator clockwise when you reach in there and grab it and turn it to advance your timing. Other thing to keep in mind, when you go ahead and write your timing marks on the flywheel itself, and actually Cornped had a really nice idea to actually just tape a little metric ruler to the flywheel to make it much easier to read. But if you're still writing your marks or using painter's tape and writing marks for a ZA50, it's to the left of top dead center. So 0 is at top dead center. You write the marks there. If you're working on an E50, it's to the right of top dead center. So I just like to write these things out to kind of keep my brain in the right place. What we'll do now is adjust the point gap. I'm going to make it a little smaller, so we'll be aiming for 0.4 millimeters, and that should reduce where my timing is at. Because right now, we're probably like 20, 22 degrees before top dead center, which is pretty high. It would be enough for it to run, absolutely. But let's get it lower. If you troll the Moped Army forums, there's a couple members on there who really harp on getting the timing as low as possible. So they want to go down to like 14.5 degrees before top dead center for a kit, which is, I mean, it's fine to do that if you're absolutely gaming for the darn lowest temperatures that you want to run. My strategy for this here, I'm going to try to get us around 16, 17 degrees before top dead center. I have the Trail Tech temp gauge that I installed. I'm going to run the bike for a while. If my temps are fine, if they're not getting anywhere near 400 degrees, I'm going to call it a day. When you're doing tuning in general, it's a good idea. Yes, you have to do timing before you do jetting. But get your timing to just a click or two below stock, tune your carb the best you can, and then depending on your temps, advance or retard your timing to get it where you want temperature-wise. So that's how I like to think of it. Enough talk, let's go ahead and get these points set and the stator set in the right place too. So there's your point gap, and actually instead of setting the points at top dead center, it's actually slightly past top dead center if you reference the mark on the case. So I'm going to gap these for when the points are at their most open, slightly past top dead center. You can get away with gapping them at top dead center, but slightly past. We'll go ahead and set them for 0.4 millimeters. All right, point screw. I need a better screwdriver, clearly. All right, have our feeler gauge in. There's a slot at the very top of the points near the screw that you can use to kind of manipulate things. We'll tighten down on the screw. Again, it's a magnetized flywheel, so it makes this not so easy. All right, so our gap is now smaller. So as we rotate the stator, as we approach top dead center, we can watch the points open. All right, so they're working. All right, so we made the gap smaller by 0.1 millimeters. And while we can go out and check this with the timing light, something else we can do to kind of see where your timing is at is as you rotate the stator, so you follow the direction of the arrow, you watch and see when the points just break open, and then see where you're at in regards to your reference mark and the mark you made on your flywheel or your ruler if you taped it there. So in this case, so we're running the engine, and right, and of course it's right towards the edge of this window, so it's kind of hard to really see for sure, but let's say right there. So now, ooh, that's good. All right, so before, this was breaking right at around 22 degrees before top dead center, and we're sitting right at about 15, 16. That's pretty sweet. There are people online who say, you know, in order to get low timing on the ZA50 stator, you have to Dremel the slots in the stator to give you more adjustment, which you can totally do that. I think you'd probably have to ditch the flathead screws and go to like an Allen head bolt or something different, because it's going to get hard to turn the screwdriver when you start running into the side of the like lighting coil or something in there. But I think this is pretty good for now. Let's go ahead and call this good. We can always fiddle with the timing and the point gap more. But now let's move on to our friend, the Bing. All right, so let's go ahead and take this Bing off and see what we're working with. Okay, so here's all the guts from the carb that I was running, and those of you with a really, really keen eye will notice that even though this carb has writing on the side here, there's no Bing written here. This is actually a clone Bing that has a random hodgepodge amounts of guts swapped into it. I got this carb in a box of parts that came from someone else, and boy, it's a real melting pot of atomizer and slide, and definitely not the clone parts in here, but I don't trust this fully. So we'll go ahead and assemble a nice OEM 15 Bing. So we've got the Bing lettering here. It looks, you know, a little more worn. But this is a proper 15 Bing. I also don't know the history of this carb either, so I'm going to take it apart here and we're going to reassemble it the way it's supposed to be. So what is it supposed to be? Well, you guys know I love papers and writing things out. In the world of Bing, there's many different types of atomizers. There's 2 different types of needles, slides. This is just looking at OEM Bing stuff, not even looking at the parts that come in clone carbs. At the top of this paper, you'll see we reference leaner on the left, richer on the right. So some things here are pretty obvious. Let me adjust the camera here a little bit better. So obviously things we understand that affect wide open throttle, like the jet, you know, lower the jet, the leaner it's going to be. There's many different types of atomizers that were released. This clone carb actually has a 2.15 atomizer in it. That came out of a 17 millimeter Bing found on a Puch Magnum X, like children's dirt bike, which is probably too lean. I've got the numbers circled here for what I'm aiming for. But really, when you're building a Bing, it's not this guessing game, because this looks kind of intimidating. You start with the Bing Power database. It tells you what the carb is supposed to have, so you use the numbers on the side of the carb and you look it up. And if you need to make an adjustment, well, now you know how to do it. Again, there's 2 different types of slides, 24 and 51. The 51 has the little hole in it, but it's not the like the buddy hole mod. It's only on one side, and it only goes right down through the atomizer, so that's actually a richer slide. The double ring needle and the single ring, if you ever have a Bing that's struggling to idle, swapping for the leaner needle can sometimes be enough. And there's also, of course, the clip setting. So what I'm aiming for here is we'll have a slightly leaner slide and atomizer, set this for full rich. For 3/4 throttle, that's usually what your adjustment looks like. So if I'm getting 4 stroking at that range, we'll go ahead and move it. Trying to avoid a bog in the mid, trying to have a consistent power. But really, again, the Bing is a single jet carb. It's a single circuit carb, so it's not like a Mikuni VM20 or a 19 or 21 PHBG where there's actually a separate passage for air for things like the idle, so you have an idle jet. You can mess with the Bing a lot and you can kind of muddy your way through it, but at the end of the day, everything passes through the main jet, so you really got to get that right too. Again, when we go ahead and go through this carb, I'm really looking to see this OEM 15 Bing, 2.17 atomizer. I'll throw a jet in there myself because the stock is an 82, 24 slide, single ring needle, clip it full rich. We'll see what happens. So the carb is totally apart, and thankfully, yes, it has the correct 2.17 atomizer, which is really good news. So we'll go ahead and get this reassembled. You know, it helps to hoard these types of parts. Whenever you get your hands on a Bing, strip it down, keep it organized. But realistically, you shouldn't have to stray too far from the path from the internals on something like a 15 Bing or a 14. You can do things like change the atomizer and needle and the clip setting, but you really shouldn't have to go crazy throwing random parts in there. So we'll go ahead and get this reassembled and try it out. I remember my first time doing really anything with the Bing and not having any mechanical experience or anything like that, and really struggling with this part. But it's just one of those things where the more you do it, the easier it gets. It's really only scary the first time you do it. Choke, throttle, choke, throttle, throttle slide moving, carb idle screw is out, O-ring is in. All right, this is awesome. All right, look at that. We're ready to run.
Wow, what a ride.
Wow, what an absolute improvement. That was amazing. Okay, so this thing starts first kick. It idles. It has good power throughout the range. It is nearly there. After the carb install, full transparency, I did have an air leak at the manifold connection again, so I just had to seat the carb a little better. Then it was fine. When you started it up, there was a very high idle. I knew I sprayed, but reseated it. Now we're in awesome shape, and that was an incredible test ride. I did take it out on the straights, as you saw, and the Speedo app wasn't really working super well. But if this will focus, we did hit a max of 47, which is pretty darn good. And the highest I saw that this temp gauge creep up to was about 318, 320 degrees. So that's a really great starting point. We're not getting too hot, and I didn't hit any four-stroking at the top. In fact, when I hit that 47, I feel like I was coming to a bit of a lean wall. So I may go up a jet and then also possibly advance the timing by rotating the stator. But as it sits right now, this is an incredible daily rider. I didn't want to take it out too long. Again, fresh build. Now it's time to check the torque on the head and the exhaust. Make sure we're still gravy there. Pretty sure we will be. Just a little bit of tightening. So this is incredible. This is just to anybody out there who's watching this. Don't be afraid to adjust your points or your timing. This is a learning process. You have to read online. You have to ask questions, get help. But if you keep at it, you will get it. You will be successful. Anyone can do this. And this bike is incredible fun. Okay there, YouTube. Until next time.